Hello, Cape Cod business community. My name is Paula Hersey, and I am with the Cape Cod Technology Council, chair of the organization here on Cape Cod that has membership that is affected by a new sales tax that has recently passed. Today I have with me two of our members that will help the small business community navigate this new tax. To my left, I have George Vaughn, who is a CPA and with Vaughn Associates. And I also have Eugene Curry, an attorney who's general counsel for the Cape Cod Technology Council. First off, I asked Gene, what is this new sales tax?
Okay, on July 24th, the Massachusetts Transportation Infrastructure Financing Bill passed. To the surprise of a lot of people, included in the bill, which became effective on July 31st, was a 6.25% sales and use tax on installation, configuration, modification, and other computer and software related services. The tax has to be collected by, in most cases, by vendors who will have to register with the Department of Revenue. It applies to sales of these services that are, it's referred to in the legislation as sourced in Massachusetts, but in other words, people who are purchasing the services in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Two important things to understand about this tax are that it is not, as Senator Brewer, for example, of the Senate Ways and Means Committee, a tax on the lucrative IT industry. It's a tax on everybody who uses IT services. So for example, if you're a restaurant owner and you have customized point of sale software, you're paying that tax. If you're a small business owner and you're having web development done and that involves configuration of software, you're paying that tax. And the important thing to also understand is that the obligation to collect the tax commenced with services rendered after July 31st of this year.
Okay, so I'm a technologist. How do I know if I should charge sales tax on my services, George?
It really depends upon the nature of the services that are provided. When you look at the software industry, canned or standardized software has always been taxed at 6.25%. And Gene makes a good point. It really is based upon sourced in Massachusetts. Are you located in Massachusetts? If you're actually providing services to a customer outside of Massachusetts, you're obviously not required to collect that sales tax. But depending upon the services that you're providing, if it meets the criteria that the legislation just passed, then you're responsible for collecting and remitting that 6.25% tax.
Okay, so I know that I possibly have to charge this tax to my vendors, or to my customers. What happens when I collect the tax?
The first thing that you need to do is register. And if you go to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue website, there is an icon there where you click for Web File for Business. So you need to register your business as a collector of sales tax. And then depending upon the amount of sales tax that you're collecting over a period of time will dictate whether you are an annual, a quarterly, or a monthly filer. For example, the very first filing that all of these companies will be faced with for the first time is a September 20th filing deadline, and that will include all of your sales tax activity for the month of August, as well as the one day, July 31st, when the legislation went into effect.
Okay. I have lots of nonprofit clients. Do I charge them sales tax?
Depends on the nature of their tax-exempt status. If they are a tax-exempt public charity, they are exempt from taxation. But other forms of nonprofits, even if they're tax-exempt, are subject to the tax.
Okay. Do I have to collect any documentation from those nonprofits?
You should collect an exemption certificate from them. That will allow you to provide your services and not charge them sales tax at that point in time.
Excellent, thank you. What are some of the resources that I can help utilize through this really confusing legislation. It's very hard for me to understand exactly what is taxed. There is a frequently asked questions at the Department of Revenue's website, but every day that I check it, there's new questions and new regulations and new ways of collecting what they're collecting. So what do I do as a small business?
Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing which comes up is that the legislation, in my opinion and in the opinion of a lot of people, was not very well drafted. So it's confusing, it's ambiguous. The Department of Revenue, as you pointed out, has on its website a page of frequently asked questions, and there's a lot of questions. It changes almost daily, so it's worth checking on a regular basis. There's also a technical information release that explains what aspects of the tax. Many people find those to be confusing as well. At the end of the day, I think you've got to talk to your tax professional to really drill down to, is this particular service provided to this particular customer taxable, and what do I do about it?
And one additional point, Paula, that I think the Department of Revenue is trying very, very hard to get information out into the public's hand. These frequently asked questions, as you noted, are updated daily. As of last night, they were up to 55. So certainly if you have questions as to your individual set of circumstances, feel free to submit that question. And they've been very responsive in trying to give a realistic and a roadmap of how to move forward.
Excellent. We have lots of resources on the Cape Cod Technology website, cctechcouncil.org. A couple of more questions as we go forward here. How about if I'm a sole proprietor? This seems like it's geared towards big businesses and partnerships and incorporated businesses. If I'm a sole proprietor, am I responsible to collect these taxes?
Absolutely. You're still providing services that under the legislature has become taxable now, and regardless of the size of your enterprise, you're still required to collect that tax and remit that tax as well.
Okay, and let's talk just a little bit about remitting the tax. We do obviously invoice our customers. Sometimes those customers don't pay us on time. What is the rule if we haven't collected payment, but our tax has come due?
You're still required to remit that tax within the appropriate time frame based upon the amount of sales tax activity within that particular month. So unfortunately, if your customer spends more than 30 days actually paying you for your services and for the tax, you're still required to make that payment.
Okay, so that would probably mean that most of these small businesses, freelancers, those types of folks that probably have not had some hard and fast accounting software may need to do something like that very quickly.
I think so, and also it's setting expectations with your customers that you are responsible for this tax, and regardless of the timing of when you get paid, you're still responsible to make payment within the appropriate time frame. So it's an education process, not only for the vendor, but for the customer as well. Okay.
Again, we'll have plenty of updated information on the cctechcouncil.org website. I have just recently heard about a repeal on this tax. So if it's going to get repealed, can I just ignore it?
Well, first of all, there's no guarantee that the tax is going to be repealed. Yesterday, on August 7th, a coalition of business leaders filed a petition with the Attorney General that may lead to a referendum to repeal the tax on the ballot in November of 2014. And there's no guarantee that the referendum will take place or that there will be a repeal. Even if that were to happen, in the interim, while the tax is still the law of the Commonwealth, you've got to collect and remit the tax if you're providing taxable services.
So our best advice today, as you face this new tax and how to deal with it, is to contact a tax professional before you get in over your head. Obviously, many resources out there. The Tech Council wants to hear from you. Our membership obviously is deeply affected by this tax. And again, it's not just technology that's being taxed, it's everyone in business that uses technology that's being taxed. Gene?
The other thing I wanted to mention is there are opportunities, even though the tax has been adopted. You can still contact your state legislators to express your opinions about the tax. There is a repeal effort going on. The Cape Cod Technology Council took a position against the tax prior to adoption and is continuing to work with other organizations to attempt to either restrict the impact of the tax or eventually have it repealed. And there's lots of opportunities for business owners to participate in that process.
Excellent. Thank you. George?
Yeah, and I think you want to make sure that you address this immediately. As onerous as it might be, it's not going away in the short term, and to ignore the billing and the collection of the tax could subject you to penalties and interest, which over time could rise to be substantial amounts of money. So I encourage people to address it immediately and get your processes in place in order to adhere to the legislation.
Excellent. I thank both Gene and George for their time this morning. Again, cctechcouncil.org will have updated information as it comes to us. We are posting it there, as well as on facebook.com/Cape Cod Technology Council and at Twitter at Cape Cod Tech. If you have any questions, you can contact me directly at paula@cctechcouncil.org. Thanks.
Thank you.